Hello, I'm very honored to be invited to address this assembly for Palestine, even though this is happening in very tragic times. Let me explain why so many Jews oppose Zionism and Israel and for what reasons they oppose it. The land of Canaan, as it's called in the Bible, figures very prominently in Jewish belief. It's a place given by God for performing commandments there. And exile from the land is a divine punishment for transgressions. Jewish tradition interprets exile as a kind of incomplete world in which connection with God is weakened or disappearing. Jewish tradition affirms that the exile that began about 2,000 years ago was caused by gratuitous hatred among the Jews. The Talmud doesn't talk very much about Roman armies, but much more about the behavior of the Jews who caused this exile. And it therefore holds that God will return the Jews to the land when they learn to practice gratuitous love. And the Bible contains various prophecies of such a return, but all of them are spiritual in nature. Zionism, as a political movement, traces its origins to English-speaking evangelical Christians in the 17th century. They interpreted these biblical prophecies literally and materially, and they began to spread the idea of ingathering the Hebrews in the Holy Land as a practical project. And this idea continued to spread in the United States and Britain in particular throughout the 18th century and the 19th century. And it combined with colonial interest of Great Britain in mid-19th century that would have consequences for this whole project by the beginning of the 20th century. So it was a Christian project, while the Jews didn't relate to it because the Talmud prohibits mass return of Jews, and even less so a return based on force. And this is why Jews made no effort to move to Palestine before the turn of the 20th century. And a good example is the 15th century, when Jews were expelled from Spain, and many of them landed in the Ottoman Empire, but very few of them went to Palestine, which was also part of the Ottoman Empire at that time. The reason is that the mass return to Palestine, to the Holy Land, was not something that the Jewish tradition approved. Theodor Herzl was a charismatic journalist and playwright born to a Jewish family in Budapest in 1860. He was profoundly estranged from Jewish life and tradition, and this is why he fell under the influence of an evangelical Christian, William Heckler, who played an important role in the London Society for the Promotion of Christianity among the Jews. He was the Anglican chaplain of the British Embassy in Vienna, where he met Herzl. So he was an individual very much committed to converting Jews to Christianity. And he was the main influencer on Herzl. Herzl embraced the Zionist idea of moving Jews to Palestine and convened the first Zionist Congress in 1897. But the Congress had to be moved from Germany to Switzerland because the vast majority of German Jews rejected Zionism because they saw in it a kind of anti-Semitism. Both Zionists and anti-Semites assert the Jews cannot be part of the nation where they have lived for centuries, and sometimes they even fought in the wars for those countries. They see Jews as a separate secular nation rather than a confession, a religious confession within the French, the German, or the Turkish nation. The idea that Jews are a secular nation was also vigorously rejected by most rabbis and religious Jews. Orthodox Jews, loyal to the tradition, have been among the most fervent opponents of Zionism to this day. Some of them may even live in Jerusalem, but they reject the state of Israel and its institutions. They distinguish between the land and the Zionist state that controls it. From the traditional Jewish viewpoint, exile continues whatever the number of Jews who live in Israel. The imposition of a Zionist political structure on the Holy Land has nothing to do with biblical prophecies of return, and in fact, many rabbis argue that it can only delay the divine redemption that Jews pray for. So one should see the Zionist project as a profoundly secular colonial project. A growing number of Jews are horrified by the violence practiced by the Zionist state. They protest Israel's dispossession, displacement, and murder of Palestinians as a radical desecration of Jewish values. This is why demonstrations against the ongoing genocide in Gaza have often been held in New York and elsewhere under the slogan, "Not in our name." Many progressive Jews reject Israel as the most recent and ongoing project of settler colonialism. This kind of colonialism is responsible for the genocide in Africa and in North and South America, for atrocities European colonialists committed in Asia and Australia. It is therefore not surprising that these very countries are currently supporting and arming Israel. Jews are profoundly divided by what Israel is and does. Some have transformed their religious identity into a political one and support Israel unconditionally. Other Jews reject Zionism and Israel just as categorically. A survey conducted in the United States revealed that the idea that God gave Israel to the Jews is less accepted among Jews than among evangelical Christians in the United States. This is why evangelical Christians are the main pillar of support for Israel. There are about 30 times more Christian Zionists than Jews in the world. While Israel pretends to act on behalf of the Jews, in reality it embodies genocidal European colonialism that continues to wreak havoc around the world. Therefore, it's essential to dissociate Israel from the Jews, Zionism from Judaism. This is the most effective way of defending the Palestinian cause. Jews have long been among the most vociferous critics of the Zionist state and its unbridled violence. And this is something that needs to be understood and remembered when promoting freedom for Palestine. Thank you very much.